Welcome back to another soul stirring moment on this journey of becoming. I am your host and guide, KB Hannibal, and this is Awakening the Warrior podcast. We recently talked about having the courage to heal. Most of us stay stuck in a stagnation of fear and question whether or not we're strong enough to embody courage. But courage has always been there. You were just taught to keep your courage tucked away in the name of respect and loyalty. Today, we open the door to an unexpected companion. Not courage, not love, but fear. Fear has walked beside us quietly, shaped our choices, interrupted our healing, and convinced us that safety meant silence. But what happens when you stop running from it? When you turn around, look fear in the eyes, and say, "Speak, I'm listening." This is the story of how fear became familiar, how it moved through childhood, crept into relationships, and sat inside memories like it belonged there. It's not just a story, it's a reckoning. And this piece is called My Friend Fear. And it's time that we met face to face. I was just 3 months old, humming in my crib, feet dancing, fingers painting the air, cooing in a tune only innocence can compose. And then, boo! Daddy's shout cracked through the air. I jumped. He laughed. I laughed. But fearfully. Level 1, fear unlocked. At 3, I saw Grandpa's lighter within reach. Is that a treasure or a toy? My hand grasped for answers. Pow! Mama's voice thundered and her hands became the law. My tiny tears asked questions, but the sting answered with silence. You're supposed to love me, I thought. And without knowing the word, betrayal arrived early. Level 3, fear unlocked. Age 5, bedtime stories wrapped me in warmth. And then she whispered, don't let the bed bugs bite. Bed bugs? She left. The darkness stayed. My eyes were open, my heart was racing. Is this what love does? Tells you monsters exist and then walk away? Level 5, fear unlocked. 7, Auntie said go to bed or the boogeyman gonna get you. Boogeyman? Now I sleep with a flashlight sword under my bed, in my closet, in the shadows. I watch them all. No one's taking me tonight. Level 7, fear unlocked. 10, a family friend crept through the house and into my room. Hands touched places Mama said no one should touch. I woke, but his hands silenced me. Shh, this is our secret. But Mama said we don't keep secrets here. So which truth do I obey? Level 10, fear unlocked. 12, I acted out in school, refused to write, refused to be small. The teacher called Grandma, and Grandma called the tree. Get the biggest switch, she said. Each lash carved confusion into my skin. Level 12, fear unlocked. 18, he said forever. He said love. He said it would be just us. But he forgot to say until I raised my fist. Forever felt like bleeding. Forever felt like silence. Forever felt like dying. Level 18, fear unlocked. 21, pregnant, homeless. I escaped the abuse, but now the fears wear bigger faces. How do I care for someone else when I can't even carry myself? Level 21, fear unlocked. I look back and I see training, not in strength but in survival. Fear was my curriculum, pain was my tutor, and humiliation wore the face of love. They laughed when I trembled, they punished when I questioned, they called it discipline. I called it confusion with consequences. Suck it up, be a big girl, no one wants a crybaby. But I was just still a baby. Too big to be coddled, too young to be wise. They knew I wasn't smart yet, but they threatened to expose my tears, taunt me with the shame in front of my 5-year-old friends, So I swallowed my sobs, hid my wet cheeks from daylight. Please don't tell them that I was crying. I won't cry. Yet somehow, they trusted me with adult issues, punished me for missteps, expected me to carry burdens that were too heavy for shoulders still growing. Let me say this. A child is not born knowing. We teach a baby to breathe. Why do you expect them to know 2 plus 2 when their brain still stumbles over trusting you? You call it common sense. I call it earned understanding. When you give severe consequences for innocent ignorance, then deny the right to express pain, you're not just creating fear, you're building trauma into the veins. So now, I flinch at correction, I overthink affection, I hesitate to feel because feeling was never safe. These are not just memories, they are training manuals, written in bruises, spoken in screams, bound in silence. But the final level is mine. It doesn't belong to fear anymore. I'm rewriting it, not with terror, with truth. Final boss, me. I woke up at 30 and courage was leaning in the corner. Not loud, just patient. Not shiny, just familiar. I wanted to meet him. He said we already know each other. He looked tired, but kind. Said he walked beside me all my life, but fear always had the front row seats. Every time he tried to step in, fear said, not today, not ever. Then courage pulled out receipts. Remember that day when you were 3 months and daddy scared you? Not much could you do, but I told you, cry. Let them know it's not okay. I was trying to teach you to build boundaries since birth, but you laughed while scrunching your face to hold in the tears. And they said, oh my God, look at those lips pouting, just too cute. So you learned to smile through pain, giggle through the grief, while your beautiful baby face wore confusion like makeup. Age 10, he said, I nudged you, I told you to tell Auntie. The boogeyman came again even while I slept. And he looked familiar, but fear whispered lies about trust, tangled truth and confusion. You stayed silent, rebellion filled the gaps. You acted out in school, he continued. Courage said, speak to Miss Jones. She saw you. She touched pain with kindness, brushed hair, replaced torn shoes. She cared. But fear stepped in again, spoke in your father's voice. What goes on in this house stays in this house. And you remembered the consequences for an open mouth. At 18, I whispered, when he sleep, leave. But fear snatched your breath and asked, where will you go? Then his voice echoed so loudly, it felt like he was standing in front of you. No one will ever want you. You have no friends. No one cares about you but me. You don't deserve to live. I'm the only one who will ever love you. And you forgot the 30 unread messages from friends and family who hadn't heard your voice in weeks. Love was reaching out, but fear hit the ignore button. At 21, I told you, don't worry, you'll be a great mom. I guided you to places where help lived, in silence, in service, but you didn't trust me. Because that day, fear and anxiety were holding hands, and they brought you to meet depression. He didn't speak much, just sat beside you and made the room darker. And you stayed. You walked with them. You, fear, anxiety, depression. You moved as a unit, never far from each other. And when you dared to step outside and catch a whiff of peace, just a breath of relief, you come home and they flood you again, even deeper than before. You wanted to be free, so badly. But fear of rejection crippling anxiety, lifeless depression. They needed you to breathe. You were their power source because you learned to tolerate trauma bonds and disappointment felt like betrayal. You stayed. Even when life scraped you raw, even when every exit echoed with their warning. Every time you tried to leave, they replayed your past, projected your pain like it was prophecy, and made you believe. They were your friends, guardian ghosts sent to protect. And they'd whisper, "We're keeping you safe." But you knew, in the silence behind those lies, that none of it was ever true. Courage took a breath. You've worn me in pieces, tiny victories, whispers of truth beneath screams, but I never left. You see, I was there each time you cracked open enough to feel. When your hand shook writing that letter, when your voice quivered in therapy, when you told yourself, "I deserve peace." That was me. He smiled. Not a grin, a knowing. "Fear isn't gone," he said, "but you're learning to stand, even with trembling knees." You survived silence by choosing sound. You lived through shadows, but you're opening the windows. "You didn't lose me," he said. "You just had to find yourself first." And then he stood and grabbed my hand and whispered, "I was just waiting for your return." As we move through this journey together, let this be the moment where we stop, pause, and ask ourselves, are we walking with courage, or are we still bowing to fear? Courage will walk with you, but it's you who must choose it. Fear doesn't always disappear. Sometimes you just simply decide courage gets the front seat today. You must look at the outcomes that fear has led you to and say with clarity, this path is no longer for me. I want to heal. I want to live. I want to find peace. And that journey begins the moment you accept courage. The moment you believe in yourself enough to trust that when you can breathe and think freely, you'll make choices that honor your truth. Stop asking, what will everyone think? Because they're living in their own proof, especially the bold ones that's bold enough to try and control your thoughts. Stop giving away your power. Stop handing over your worth. You are here to create a life for you, not for your family, not for your children, not for anyone else. Release anything that controls you. Release anyone who's tried to shape you into something that serves their comfort. Your partner, your wife, your husband, none of them belong to you. You don't own another soul. They have the same sacred right to define their life as you do yours. Marriage is not ownership, it's partnership. It's for better or for worse, not for control. And children, we're here to guide them, not grip them, to lead them until their wings are strong enough, and then we let them fly. This doesn't mean you don't help, and it doesn't mean you don't advise, but it does mean releasing control over what was never yours to hold. Let go. Not because it's easy, but because you finally understand courage doesn't need permission. Let this be your invitation to release what does not serve you, to return to your breath and reclaim your power. And remember, you were not made to be contained. You were made to rise. You are worthy, you are free, and you are deeply loved. Thank you for sharing this sacred space with me today. I am your host and guide, KB Hannibal. Please like, share, and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, or Facebook. Join the community and leave a comment letting me know how this podcast is inspiring parts of your life. Until next time, keep choosing courage and keep choosing you.